Yikes. I cannot get this situated right. All right. Hey guys, I think I'm streaming. I'm not sure. Let me get over to YouTube and see if I'm actually streaming. If I'm streaming, hello, how is everybody doing tonight? Okay. Since they changed the thingy-mabobber around, YouTube Studio, I can't find what I'm doing. I don't really have anything to update tonight or no real progress made on anything that I can share here. All right, let's see. Now I have to go to other features and then pop out the live stream thingy. Okay. So yes, I am live. All right. So yeah, like I said, I don't really have a point to tonight's stream. I should just changing my title on this because it's not my blog, so I'm not updating my blog for the Werewolves and Unicorns anthology. Okay, now I gotta mute this so I don't distract myself. Okay, so yeah, I'm just sketching tonight because it's been quite a while since I did anything useful. That's not true. I have been working on like this kind of thing. If you're following me over on what's that place? Instagram, you'll know that I've been updating there. And I have a book commission I've sketched out. And so I am working on stuff, but as far as like the Werewolves anthology, Werewolves and Unicorns, I don't have anything to update on that. I was messing around with some unicorn drawings the other night, yesterday, whenever. But today, I was sort of appalled. I'm usually appalled when I'm on Twitter. That's not hard. The world is an appalling place, right? And there's a certain group of people that normally appalls me. And I don't want to like, nobody's going to watch this video anyway, but I don't want to title it or put it in there because I don't want people to freaking, like, I don't want to invite trolls, but there's a certain group of people that my core values and ideas about what comics does not align with in the world. And today, one of them, and if you are at all hip to comics, you're on Twitter, you would have seen the freaking drama on there. But one of them, who calls himself a professional because he's worked in the industry in the past and no longer, well, he might still have a couple gigs here and there. He took a piece of art that he had purchased. It was like an unfinished sketch layout, very sketchy, a layout for a Marvel Spider-Man cover, which is why I'm drawing Spider-Man characters here. And the irony is I am not a professional, and this guy's a better artist than I am, so whatever. So I'm calling this guy out, I guess. I don't normally do shit posts or call outs or whatever. It just really, really aggravated me today. But yes, I'm not naming names because I don't want this to be like a call out specifically. I don't want any like I'm not trying to draw attention to myself by calling this out. I guess is the thing. I'm just on my little tiny channel. I'm just speaking my mind here. And yeah, so he took this piece of art that he had purchased, and without asking permission from the guys, he's a deceased Marvel great, Waringo. Is it Matt or Mike? One of them is the brother, and he's still alive and in charge of the estate. I think that's Matt, and I think the artist was Mike Waringo. And he's very well beloved and really wickedly talented, of course, as you can imagine. And working for the Marv. And so this guy had this original layout for unused. It was unused for a Spider-Man sketch that he thought, oh, I've inked this guy once before in my comic book career. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this breakdown for this cover, which is basically just a pose sketch, and a layout. Here is I was trying to draw this, like, because it was so difficult. I was just trying to sketch out the pose of the actual, and you can tell I couldn't even do it. But again, if you've seen this, yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so he took that pose, that cover, and he basically turned it into his character, his superhero character, and changed the villain and put it in an alley and was like, this is going to be an alternate cover to the piece I'm working on, for my comic book that I'm self-publishing. And so, but instead of like tracing over the sketch and saying, hey, this was inspired by this Waringo pose that was never used, inspired by, he not only traced it over and turned it into his characters and changed the background and the concept, he did it on the original artwork, which is like, instead of lightboxing it, he did it on the original artwork, and then he put the dead artist's name on it and was going to, I'm assuming, publish it as an alternate cover. But even his supporters, who normally, I don't know, they're not the best judgments of what is moral at all times, they even thought that was no good. And and then the brother who runs the estate, I think it was Matt Waringo, he told the guy to cease and desist, and so the artist did so, and instead of just, throwing it out or whatever, he made a spectacle on his YouTube page of burning it on a grill, which, I mean, the whole thing was just nauseating. I don't, first he thought he had the right, because he bought the artwork, to freaking alter it, and without permission of the artist, which, I always find that kind of funny. Like, I'll see online inkers getting commissions that a collector has bought, like a pencil of like a page or a cover or something, or a character sketch of, a famous artist, and then they will hire the inker to ink over the original artwork. And then they both sign it, and it becomes, because they're like, well, it's just a pencil, it needs to be inked. And a lot of people will do that. But okay, so that is always sort of like, huh? Like, I've sort of like, I guess it's okay to do that, but I've never really thought that was, I like personally would never do that. If I bought somebody's pencils, I wouldn't then pay somebody to ink over them. Maybe I would pay them to, again, lightbox and make me a separate copy, but I would never just, anyway. So I don't know what the legality or the morality, I mean, I'm assuming it's okay because a lot of well-known people do this and there's no outcry, but they're not altering the character. They're not taking the character and turning it into their own intellectual property. They're not taking so what this guy did was he took a Spider-Man piece and he changed it into his own intellectual like he changed it with his own anyway, it was just horrifying. It was horrifying to me. And there was a big stink about it on the Twitter today as well. There should have been. And, I just, it's just so aggravating. I mean, it really, these people, and what drives me crazy is this guy has like a fairly sizable following because of his ideological beef. And so many people like, well, he bought it, he can do what he wants with it. No, you can't do what you just because you buy somebody's art doesn't mean that you then have the right. You're like violating the copyright. You just have that product, but you don't have rights to copy it and produce it and sell it or to, I mean, I don't know. Maybe if it was significantly altered from the original, so therefore it technically would he have won? I don't know. I think if he hadn't ceased and desisted, the estate of Ringo's estate might have, got some lawyers involved. But luckily they didn't have to because he took it down. But he's like totally unrepentant about it. Like he doesn't really see that he did anything wrong. I don't, So it's just like, what is wrong with people? How can you claim to be a professional comic book artist and then think that what you did was think that that's okay? Like, how would he have been okay if somebody did that to his work and turned it into, like took one of his drawings and look at how squishy and lumpy this head is. I'm not. Oh, this is why I don't work for any of the big companies. This is why I'm not a comic book professional, but whatever. Anyway, he has some serious belief systems about what is good comics and what isn't. And what if, like, I took one of his pieces and I inked over it and I put it on the cover of a comic book with content that he finds objectionable? Would he have a problem with that? I don't know. I think, like I said, I think a lot of it would have been like, if he had just done a trace on a different piece of paper, hadn't destroyed the original, and said, after this, da 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 da, and paid homage to it instead of like thinking he could then rip it off and then claim credit, like, oh, I bought this, so therefore his art, I can publish his art since I altered it with his name on it, and that way he could, he was going to benefit off if he published it as an alternate cover. He could have benefited from the name recognition of the artist that he was, stealing from. So, yeah, just hideousness. The other thing, I don't know if you've ever tried to draw a man in a suit, but like the whole, it's kind of actually hard to figure out how to get the curve of the lapels right. At least it is for me. But I'm not a man who wears a suit or works around men who wear suits a lot, so I don't have a lot of reference to help me out. Maybe if I saw it all, all the time from different angles, I would be better at drawing it. Anyway, I don't like to talk about, I'm very opinionated, and the only drama I can really usually handle is what's going on in my Star Wars Game of Heroes guild. at any given time. Oh, wow, this is lagging. And that's enough drama for me as far as like commenting on drama. But I mean, I'm on the Twitter, so obviously I like the drama. But I don't try to put it on this channel, I guess. But it's days like this where I'm just like, Jesus, like, man, I want to make a call out. But then I want to make a call out video and I want to call out this terrible behavior. But then, then I'd end up, trolls would find me and I don't have time for that crap. I mean, I'm not afraid of them. It's just annoying because they don't listen. You can't argue with them. You can't have a reasonable argument, or they'll just be like, but well, I owned you, at the end of the day. Haha, I owned you. You're a special snowflake. That's what their argument would boil down to. I've never tried to draw the Kingpin or Mary Jane before, so this is the first for me. And as you can see, my Spider-Man, yeah, I can't even like comprehend. It would be so hard for me to figure out how his lines, I know that his like lines on his suit, his webs and stuff, they're like actually helpful for drawing perspective and like to show how his body is like going forward and backwards in perspective. But I think it would break my brain if I tried to actually draw that. So, I don't know. I'd like to draw Daredevil. He and Spider-Man are my favorites. I'm trying to think who my favorite Marvel villain is. My favorite DC villain and hero are Batman and Joker, because, and I'm trying to think who in the DC universe would be my favorite. Oops. I mean, Kingpin, he crosses over with both Daredevil and Spider-Man, so that's cool. But I didn't read as much. It's like my favorites are Elektra, Daredevil, Spider-Man. I read the whole Dark Phoenix thing, and but never really got into the X-Men much after that. Which is my color layer? Is it that one? Just throw some colors down on here really quick. And so a lot of what I read with like Daredevil and Elektra was like the hand and stuff like that. Like I didn't read. So most of my comic book buying stuff was independent comics. And so when I did read superhero stuff, it was few and far between. Like I said, I read the whole Dark Phoenix saga. I read Elektra. I read the Sienkiewicz Elektra. I read Miller. I read trying to think. There's a whole series collected in whatchamacallit. It was a Daredevil one where Karen Page was coming off of a heroin addiction. I don't remember what that one was. If anybody remembers that, let me know in the comments. And I read, one-offs here and there. And of course, a lot of my consumption was like cartoons and movies and da da da. And the rest of the time I was reading independent manga, as far as Marvel goes. And then I read some Batman, Batman. I had the Killing Joke and all that crap in the 90s. But does he always wear a white suit? Let's take a look at my reference. Does he always have a white suit jacket on? Oh, there's gray, obviously. Vincent D'Onofrio, who's amazing. He was in black. Oh, there's a black and white one. Seems like he's in white a lot. What's up with his physique underneath that? I know he's like all muscle under there, like fat and muscle, but obviously because he's strong as hell. It's like, if you look at him underneath the coat, I guess I could have drawn him with his ascot or whatever, but I guess it's white. Oh, that's a cool picture. Sorry, you can't see what I'm seeing. That's him in a tank top without his coat on. He's just huge, but huge in a cool way. I don't really like Doc Octopus, the Green Goblin. Even though I love Spider-Man, I don't really care for the Spider-Man villains so much. It's like, I love Jameson, and I wonder if I could draw him. J. Jonah Jameson. Let's see. Never tried to draw him either. He's got that crew cut and that strange little mustache. Being the traditional. Why did he always have that little Hitler nose mustache? It's a little bit too on the nose. I think the villains in DC are more interesting to me. I mean, Lex Luthor's great. So I think Kingpin would probably be my favorite as far as the Marvel side goes. I don't really care about Magneto and all the X-Men stuff. J. Jonah Jameson. All right, so what does he look like here? Let's see, classic. Let's see if I can get a classic one. Classic comic. Let's see if that will do for me. Like old school J. Jonah Jameson. J. Jonah Jameson. It's hard to say. An old school Aunt May, where she's all old. She's actually old. There he is. How old is this one? I don't know. All right, so where's my... Let's go down here. Oh, look, see, I was drawing a horse. All right, I gotta slide this over. Is this the blue line layer? No. This is a blue line layer, so we'll just go on this one. So... I just don't understand why everything has to be so douchey in the world, right? Why everybody has to be so freaking... Oh, he's got a bump in his nose. Like, it's just why everybody is so bent out of shape about everything has to be my way, or I don't like it and you're wrong. And if you don't like something, just don't read it. Like me, I didn't like the way that superhero books and shit were going, so I didn't read them for a long ass time. I still don't. Now I just consume them as the movies. You know, there's plenty of other freaking comics out there. There's like such a wealth of amazing independent comics and amazing independent web comics. And like, you do not have to, uh, you do not have to only live and die by superhero comics. Freaking broaden your horizons. I couldn't stand it. Like I said, in the 90s when everything was all, you know, as an art student, although I couldn't draw at all, I wasn't very good, but I didn't like the style of the art that was on all the major, you know. So I turned to independence and I turned to manga. And I didn't like waste my time. If there had been an internet, I don't think I would have wasted my time. Like, I would have done a lot of stupid things if there was an internet back in my day. But I wouldn't have like sat around destroying action figures of shit I didn't like and making endless forum posts and trying to bring down the industry. I would find other stuff I liked instead um, and I would have supported that, which is exactly what I did. My pull list was all independents, you know? So, like, why? What do you care? Like, what do you care? If they destroy the industry, so what? Make your own intellectual properties and don't crow about how much better you are than everybody else. No, I'm not going downstairs. Dog, stop barking at me. The dog wants me to go downstairs. It's not going to happen. It's not time yet, dog. Jeremy's down there with the TV. My husband's got the TV, so it's not time for me to have the Xbox yet. so yeah, I just don't. Gosh, you know, old school J. Jonah Jameson is actually he's not like skinny. He's actually got like a square cut jaw, and I don't know. My husband and I worked in journalism, and there weren't that many journalists that look like this. Oh, it's funny. Especially older ones. I know I've said all this before, but it just amazes me that this crap is still going on. And, I'm going to start a new blue line. I don't know. I used to be really into tearing, you know, I think, especially a lot of people when they're younger, it's like people think that it's so cool to be an edgelord and to tear everybody down. And, you know, I used to do that shit too. And now that I'm older, I do a lot. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. It's toxic and it comes back to bite you. And it makes you feel good in the short term, but in a really nasty way. Like, you're not a positive, you feel good. You get like, by tearing somebody down, you get like the relief of like, you know, well, at least I'm not that person, ha ha ha, for like 2 seconds. But at the end of the day, it's like, that's not where true, I don't know, I'm still guilty of it. I still look at memes and shit that I see that are mean spirited, that on the Twitter, that make me feel better because that certain orange shitlers, I feel deserve it, but whatever. But I don't know. Everybody still does it. I try not to as much. I try not to. Oh my God. He's looking a little bit like the Wrath of Khan right now rather than J. Jonah Jameson. Yeah. Ricardo Montalban. Maybe I should do some Star Trek. fan art. I haven't done any of that ever. And notice I can only do the headshots. God forbid I should try to draw the... He doesn't... I don't have him looking as... what's the word? He's kind of like... always kind of like off the rails, kind of batshit over the top crazy J. Jonah Jameson. Always in some kind of a... what's the word I'm looking for? He's off on a tizzy. He's having a tizzy. He's always having a tizzy. Ladybug, I'm not going downstairs. No, 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 no. Go on. If you want anything, you have to go tell Jeremy. Go on. Go tell Jeremy, not me. So I got to tell you that I am really excited for Battle Angel Alita, or Alita, or whatever the hell they're calling it. I loved that manga. Oh my goodness. I am so excited for it. And I don't like to watch a lot of previews because I feel like previews spoil, even though I know the book, or I don't know how closely to the original they're staying. It looks like at the beginning they are, at the beginning, like visually, when you see the preview, it really looks like the early part of the books. So I don't know how far they're gonna, stray from the original storyline as she becomes the Battle Angel, but I am really excited for it. It looks really good. The junkyard looks great. But yeah, I am staying away from... Hello, lag. Staying away from the previous, so I don't want spoilers. I feel like the movies now, they are all so formulaic that and they show like everything. They show like the whole first up to like practically the climax in the trailers. And so if you have any freaking clue about movie making or the story that's there's, you know how it's going to go. So, I don't know. I just don't like to. I've read a lot of Save the Cat and plot stuff, and so it gets to the point where it's kind of predictable. Rare is the movie that surprises me, and those are gems. Which is why I really liked... I haven't been watching a lot of TV, but that's why I really like to watch... I used to love to watch Korean dramas, and I still love them, but I have not been indulging because you have to read the subtitles, and so usually I'm doing something, and I can't just sit and listen to it. I have to actually sit and read it. That, and then I like start binging them all. But anyway, they have a slightly different storytelling aesthetic, and so things will happen differently than I expect a lot of the times. I won't be able to guess a character's motivation because they're cultural. Well, they're very Western, but they still have their own cultural sensibilities that we here in the West don't, traditions, things like that. And so characters will do things and react to that I surprise me. And so they're just amazing stories. And the actors are all, I mean, I just love them so much. I really should start watching them again, but it's like a disease. When I start watching them, I binge like crazy and I can't. So, all right. I don't know. How does that look on from reversed? Does that look like him? I don't know. I mean, it's clearly not on model of such a thing. Is there a model? It's not like animation, right? Every artist that comes along does their own style take. I don't know. Let's see if I can enlarge him a little bit. Oopsie. Wrong button. I feel like his forehead's too high. And let's pull that down a little bit. God, in the old days, you know, you'd have to like erase and do that again, or you'd have to like get tracing paper out and then like do part of that on tracing paper and then slide the tracing paper down or up depending to then draw the rest of it on the tracing paper to shrink it. I think that looks better now that I got his head right, sort of more right. So, I mean, the bottom line is, guys, don't be freaking taking. It's okay to trace or to do something inspired by the pose of a famous piece or whatever, but don't like freaking alter an original art of an artist who's deceased and then try to pass it off as a collab between the two of you for money. That's just like totally shitty. Don't be doing that crap. I remember how horrified. This is how if I was that guy, this is how I would feel. If I was Roy Ringo and I was like, you know, looking down from if there's a heaven and he's looking and he got there and he's looking down on it, you know, I'm assuming he did. And some asshole had done that to my art. I imagine it would feel very much like I think maybe I was a freshman year in art college. In college, I went to a university. I was an art major. We had this freaking wacky out there teacher, professor. You know, you got to imagine that these professors were fine artists. Most of them were fine artists, except for my graphic design teachers. They were graphic artists. And so, you know, they're all going to be a little eccentric, right? Because artists are eccentric, as you know. And anyway, this guy, I was working on this piece and he didn't like the way I had done it. And so he took my drawing, he booted me out of the way and he freaking scribbled all over my drawing. And I was absolutely horrified and livid. I could not believe it because I wasn't doing his critique, I wasn't doing what he was suggesting. So he just got in there and just fucking went for it and like destroyed it. Oh my God. I was horrified. I think I probably went even to the head of the department, who was he and I had a good relationship, but I was just so upset. So I guess that's kind of how I would feel if I was the artist, if I was Ringo and somebody had, you know, this guy had taken my art and for a Spider-Man piece, and turned it into something it was completely not intended for without my permission. Now, if that had belonged to Marvel, and Marvel owned the art and the rights to the art, and they said, hey, we want to re-envision this and make this come alive, and he was then I suppose there would be more of a solid footing on that, right? Because they are a copyright holder. But it would have to depend on the terms of the contract. And what the permissions was, and if the estate agreed to it and all that, or if, he had given away the rights to the art when he was working for them and it was wholly their property. But some dude on the internet buying a piece of art does not give him right to alter said artwork. He only has the right to display the artwork. And he probably didn't even have the rights to like he couldn't take that piece and make prints of it and sell it, because he did not buy the distribution rights to that artwork. He just, you know what I mean? So I don't know if you've ever had art stolen, but I have. I found some of my art. I've found several pieces of mine stolen throughout the years on different print on demand places. And the worst of it was there was this company where somebody had stolen one of my images, and they had printed it out on bottle cap magnets, and they were selling them. They were selling them all over the country. In fact, my mother found, when I told her about it, she found one for sale in Florida. I was living in where was I at the time? Was I in I think I was in Indiana. But they were like being sold worldwide. And of course I never got any. The only thing I could do, because I didn't have money for expensive lawyers or whatever, the only thing I could do was get them to cease and desist. And so I never saw a dime from that. And here they were. This was a multi-million-dollar company. So, I mean, it sucks. It sucks when people steal your shit, and just by altering it a little bit or putting it on a different product than you had it on, thinking that it's okay to sell it. It's bullshit. So don't be a dick, people. Don't be an art thief and say, because I'm a professional, it's okay. Because I actually worked with this guy in some capacity once. That gives me a right to forever steal his shit just because I happen to come across an original piece. So, like, what? That means that I could go out and buy an original Steve Ditko Spider-Man, and I can ink over it, and then I can sell pieces of it saying that this is mine, and I can put his name on it, trace over his signature, and then say, this is a collaborative piece of art by me and Steve Ditko, so therefore, I have the rights, because I inked over it, I have the rights to sell it? No, of course not. That's bullshit. Well, I bought the original pencils, so I can do with them what I want. No, you can't. If anybody strongly disagrees with me, I'd love to hear it and hear your reasonings as to why. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're wrong. You're wrong! This is some seriously sketchy inks right here. All right, let's see. I could try to figure out which layers were my... What do you think? Yes, no? Sorta? It sorta looks like J. Jonah Jameson. How old do you think he looks here? I wanted to give him a little bit of a... I don't like drawing the Charlie Chaplin stash, let's say. Let's call it that. It's got too many negative connotations. All right, let's put some color on him too. Everybody's generic flesh tone in these old comics. I'm sure there was like probably a it probably was a number, you know. It was probably like a ink number this color. Because I'm looking at the page, this old page, and on the internet here, and of course Aunt May, Peter, and J. Jonah all have the same skin tone. So. I think my inks look even sketchier than my sketchy ink than my pencils did. Oh man, it's all right. It's hard to. I can't ink and do this streaming. It screws up my. What is this I'm using here? This is a. What is this I'm using, people? Paint. This is paint. Paint Shop Pro. Paint Shop. Paint. No. What is this? Clip Studio Paint. For God's sake. I'm starting to get worried about myself. I can't think anymore. I can't make the sentences work in my brain. All right, so he has like the blue gray, steel gray hair underneath that black. And of course his sides are white, but I didn't ink the waves on the side of the head because it's starting to make my hand cramp up since it won't the lagginess. It's lag, man, the lag, it hurts me. Oops. So yeah, so that was my ranty as I get on the internet now. In public. I get pretty ranty in private, but